What's up, Renegades? I am Lupine Fiasco. This is your daily FaB gameplay, and today's game is against Katsu the Wanderer. For anyone who is new to the channel, welcome. What we do here is review replays of games that I've played on Talishar.net days or weeks ago, just long enough ago that the decision bias of the moment wears off, and I can look at the game through a more objective lens. I'll walk through turn cycles as if I were playing them now, while commentating my thought processes for the lines I would take. We compare the decisions I make now to the lines I took in the past to either learn from our mistakes or reinforce good play patterns. The reason we do this is to optimize and tighten our gameplay in the future and walk away with that shiny cardboard. With all that said, let's take a look at our sideboard and our game plan. Today's game features my harmonized Kadachi list. If you would like to check that deck list out for yourself or try it on Talishar, you can find it in the video description below. While you're down there, if you have not already done so, please subscribe to the channel. It is the best free way to support me, and make sure you see daily FaB content in your video feed 5 days a week. Against Katsu, the most important thing to do is win the die roll, which we have failed to do, so we will be going first. Katsu is an aggressive deck, and in any aggro mirror, we like to go second when possible. That lets us block the opening attack with cards from hand, then redraw at the end of our opponent's turn, so that our first attack either gets life total or cards from hand that our opponent does not get to easily replenish. We are going first, however. That is not going to change any of the equipment that we will use. We are sticking with our Kadachis and our Mask of Momentum. The goal here being to go 6 links wide in a turn to threaten multiple Mask of Momentum triggers. Katsu's armor is okay. Breeze Rider Boots and Breaking Scales both block a Kadachi or an unbuffed Phoenix Flame. They can also stop a 4 power breakpoint with themselves and a 3 block from hand. Katsu does run a few more 3 blocks than we do, so it isn't totally unreasonable, but Katsu still has a high density of ninja cards with natural go again, so there is a great chance that he gets stuck with a few 2 blocks and can't easily prevent us from drawing cards with our Mask of Momentum. We're using our Flamescale Furnace. The extra 3 points of life are very relevant in a race. They're also great for blocking Katsu's on hits, of which there are many. And Katsu, as a ninja, does not deal arcane damage, so there's no reason to bring in our Spell Void or our Arcane Barrier. Moving into the 60 cards in deck, we will be boarding out a copy of Warmonger's Diplomacy and 2 copies of Enlightened Strike to bring in our Sink Belows. Since this game, I have decided to keep the 3rd copy of Warmonger's Diplomacy in and board out the 3rd copy of Enlightened Strike. Our Kadachi list just runs so low on blues that not having the right ratio of them might prevent us from having very big turns. You will see this in the game today. Enlightened Strike is a very strong card. It is a strong 2-card hand. It blocks well. It's very flexible, and it gives us another opportunity to use our Snapdragon Scalers. But in an aggro mirror where we are really trying to high roll an Art of War turn, Enlightened Strike is not the best card for doing that. Needing to bottom a card from hand can be a huge setback and a huge impediment to presenting a lot of damage. So we do want to board it out. And we want to bring Sink Belows in just because they block a little better. You aren't really expecting to ever get Katsu on the D-React. If Katsu throws a Surging Strike for 5 at you, I don't recommend blocking with equipment and a 3 block from hand just to bait him into using Ancestral Empowerment that you can then respond to with Sink Below. You're treating Sink Below as a block from hand that blocks 4. If Katsu attacks with a Surging Strike, you can block with the front half of your Flamescale Furnace and Sink Below. If Katsu follows a Surging Strike with Whelming Gust Wave for 4, You can block that with the back half of your Flamescale Furnace and Sink Below. We are never trying to trick Katsu into making a mistake. We are only trying to effectively block his attacks and overblock when possible. Breaking Scales will sit on the table until it's used, so any attack with combo that you want to block should be treated as having at least 1 extra power, and if possible, 2 extra power to play around an Ancestral Empowerment from hand. I do want to talk very quickly about Bittering Thorns, which has found its way into my Kadachi list at the recommendation of much better players than I. I am still not 100% sold on Bittering Thorns as a card, but I am more interested in having an additional 1-cost 4-power attack in the Kadachi list. Kadachi runs a little lower to the ground as far as cost is concerned, and we can play more flexibly with our 1-cost attacks than we can in an Emberblade list. Bittering Thorns is a 4-power attack. That breakpoint is very helpful for triggering Mask of Momentum, and it does let us play a bit better with a 2-card hand. Between it and a blue, that presents a possible 7 damage rather than just 6. If we were to compare Bittering Thorns to another 1-cost attack. That said, it isn't draconic. I have played games where Bittering Thorns would have been better as a Soaring Strike, not because of the on-hit, just because of the draconic type line. Sometimes getting that 3rd draconic link on the chain to pull our Phoenix Flame out of discard and attack with it is very relevant for triggering Mask of Momentum, in a way that the extra damage from Bittering Thorns isn't. I just wanted to address that. I made a post a few weeks ago about how Bittering Thorns is unplayable. I am back testing it. I think it is still unplayable in Emberblade, but it is a bit better in Kadachi lists. I don't know if it is better than Soaring Strike, and if you are unable to get your hands on a Bittering Thorns, they are very difficult to find right now, then it is an easy 1-to-1 swap with Soaring Strike. Our game plan for Katsu is to just aggress. We are trying to kill him before he kills us, but we need to be careful with what we do and don't block. Katsu's hero ability lets him pull out combo lines, which at a minimum deal a ton of damage, especially when paired with Katsu's equipment. Breeze Rider Boots letting Katsu pull off a double bond turn is just a ton of damage, easily comparable to our better Art of War turns. But Whelming Gust Wave being Snatch with Go Again is very strong. Bonds of Ancestry being 2 0-cost 4-power attacks, possibly with Go Again, is very strong. And overall, he can deal more damage on his bigger turns than we can. That said, he deals less damage on his average turns than we do. Because Katsu is less consistent, not all of his attacks have natural Go Again. He may run into 4- and 5-card hands that just don't do anything. What we really want to be careful of is underblocking or blocking Exactsies, not playing around Ancestral Empowerment or Breaking Scales at critical moments. We want to be aware of Mask of Momentum. That is a mistake that you will see me make in this game, is forgetting that the mask trigger is still on the table. And we also want to be aware of whether we are blocking Surging Strike or what comes after Surging Strike. I am in the camp that we take the Surging Strike damage, let Katsu trigger his hero power, then block whatever the follow-up is. We play around Katsu having the combo in hand naturally, not stopping the Surging Strike so that he can't find the combo piece. The philosophy I've heard is if you are going to block the Surging Strike, you need to be prepared to block whatever comes next. That's the game plan. That is the sideboard and equipment guide. Let's jump into the game and see how it all comes together. Kicking things off here, Phoenix Flame goes right into discard, and we see that our opening hand is actually pretty good. Warmonger's Diplomacy is never playable against Ninja, but it is a way to pitch for the Kadachis and the Phoenix Flame. So we can sequence this turn like any other, not expecting to trigger Mask of Momentum, but just trying to leak a little damage over, maybe get big blocks from Katsu so that we can end our turn with a Snatch. But regardless of whether we are ending our turn with Snatch or Salt the Wound, we can put a card in Arsenal and hopefully leak a little damage over. So we'll just start with Brand with Cinderclaw, follow that with Kadachi, pick up our Phoenix Flame from discard and attack with it. Then based on how many hits and how many cards Katsu has left in hand, we will either end with Salt the Wound or Snatch. Katsu here getting hit twice, and with a Shuko trigger on the table, we are going to end with Salt the Wound. Expecting to push a little damage, but we get hit by a Wax On, which is not a card I have ever seen played against me, or a card I would ever expect to be played against me again. The hand that we draw into is okay. It would be better with a blue. We're going to take the damage from both of the Kadachis, intending to block whatever comes next. We see a Be Like Water, and we're going to block this with a Lava Burst, which is potentially very risky. If Katsu does have the Ancestral Empowerment in hand, he has the 1 resource floating to pay for Be Like Water's effect. This could also pay for a Razor Reflex. There are a number of lines Katsu could take that make blocking this Be Like Water for exact damage bad, but we are not in a position with this hand to really block any more than this. I could see throwing Mounting Anger in front of this as well, blocking 5 and hoping that Katsu's other 2 cards in hand are just kind of stinky. On our turn, we can lead with our Snatch, snap it, then double strike, Ravenous Rabble. And in fact, if I am making this decision now, I think that's what I'm doing, not because I feel like I really need to play around Ancestral Empowerment, but because this Mounting Anger on its own just isn't very good. So that all said, we are choosing to block for exact damage in this game, and we see that we are not punished for it. Katsu just attacking for 7 with Enlightened Strike. On our turn, we are going to lead with our Snatch, intending to snap it. It has often been a problem of mine that I save my Snapdragon Scalers for too late in a game, thinking that I'm going to need them to bail me out of a bad situation later. Meanwhile, walking into bad situations at the time. If we were not going to snap here, this hand looks like double strike, Ravenous Rabble, Snatch. But we still have this Mounting Anger in hand, so even with Snatch hitting, it doesn't really put us ahead. But here we get 2 cards from Katsu's hand, apparently playing around Razor Reflex. We also get the Breaking Scales, which is going to make it a little harder for Katsu to stop this double strike. So we potentially trigger Mask of Momentum here with our double strike and our Ravenous Rabble, and depending on what we draw, we still have an action point, so we could potentially pitch to play a Mounting Anger and attack with 2 Kadachis. If we draw a Head Jab or a Finisher, that is a good way to end our turn and arsenal the Mounting Anger. And it's all because we aren't afraid to use our Snapdragon Scalers early in the game. This is an aggro mirror, and no aggro mirror really lasts that long. So picking good opportunities to use your Snapdragon Scalers rather than waiting for great opportunities to use your Snapdragon Scalers is generally just a good thing to do. Ravenous Rabble here reveals a breaking point. It also gets a block from Katsu, so we do get to set up an arsenal. We see that a blue in this hand would be very strong, but without it, we can still make this hand work. We can play our Mounting Anger by pitching a breaking point. Then we can pitch our Lava Vein Loyalty to Furnace to generate 2 resources. So the sequencing here is going to look like Mounting Anger for 4, followed by Ronin Renegade for 3, Harmonized Kodachi for 1, Breaking Point for 5. Breaking Point will probably get blocked, as it is the Mask of Momentum and CNC trigger. At the very least, we will have 3 Draconic attacks on the chain, so if we don't draw from our Mask of Momentum, we get to pick up and arsenal a Phoenix Flame, which is worse than drawing a card from the top of our deck, but at least better than having no arsenal set up. We see me pitch the Lava Vein Loyalty for Mounting Anger. This really doesn't matter. The important thing is that we are getting a 0-cost card into our arsenal so that the Harmonized Kodachi Go Again effect is online. Noting too that we do need to keep a resource available for Breaking Point. We cannot attack with our Kodachi. We cannot pick up a Phoenix Flame here, which does put us in an awkward position with this Lava Burst. Without the Snapdragon Scalers, we have no way to play both finishers at once, so we have a choice to make. We can either activate FaB here, pick up and play our Phoenix Flame, which then turns on Shuko for our Lava Burst, or we can stick to our original plan, play our Breaking Point, then instead of picking up our Phoenix Flame for our arsenal, we just arsenal this Lava Burst. While it is tempting to pick up and play the Phoenix Flame, since that does represent a little more damage, I think it is more important to play our Breaking Point. We've seen Katsu take a lot of damage to preserve this 5-card hand. Part of that may be not having the armor block available, but I think another part is Katsu just setting up for something big. So I would rather throw some disruption his way and arsenal our Lava Burst for our next turn. So we see Katsu block heavily to protect this card in Arsenal, and in fact just pass the turn back to us. So on the one hand, this is great for our tempo. On the other hand, we draw into a very awkward hand. We draw into another Breaking Point, which is going to be good for threatening Katsu's arsenal, but we don't have a way to turn on our Blaze Headlong. This Brand with Cinderclaw is a good way to start the turn, but we just don't have a way to really make this hand pop. So we are going to have to pitch some reds to attack with our Kodachis, which never feels great, but we do what we have to do. So I'm looking at playing the Brand with Cinderclaw, then pitching Sink Below to attack with a Kodachi, pitching Blaze Headlong to activate FaB, and attacking with the Phoenix Flame. The Phoenix Flame then threatens a Mask of Momentum trigger. If the Phoenix Flame hits and we do draw a card, we can look at maybe pitching that to attack with Breaking Point. If it doesn't hit, because Katsu blocks it, we just follow up with Lava Burst for 6 and arsenal our Breaking Point. So while this hand is certainly ugly and would be much better served by having a red starter, it isn't unsalvageable. What really is unfortunate about these 2 turns back to back, not having a blue or a red starter to make the hand really pop, is we aren't very far ahead on life. For how much pressure I feel like we've been putting Katsu under and for how ineffective his turns have been, we should be farther ahead, and we just aren't. Katsu does let the Phoenix Flame hit, and we draw into another Sink Below, which is just not good, because that's 3 out of our deck, and we would have really rather drawn these in a place where we are able to block with them. Katsu lets the Breaking Point hit. We get an Art of War out of Arsenal, so we see why Katsu is so committed to defending with this hand. He is breaking Heart and Cross Strap and leading with the Surging Strike. So at this point, I'm going to let the Surging Strike hit. Like I said, if I block this Surging Strike, I need to be committed to blocking whatever the follow-up is, and I'm just not prepared to do that. We also see that we have a weird looking hand where this Salt Wound is our only 3-block, but we also need it to play out our 2 1-cost attacks. And if we do play out these 2 1-cost attacks, we have a very strong turn coming up. Brand with Cinderclaw, followed by Bittering Thorns, followed by Mounting Anger, followed by Phoenix Flame and Lava Burst with a Shuko trigger. It's just very good. So we kind of have to just take all of this damage. Katsu finds the Descendant Gustwave, plays out Bonds. We can do a quick graveyard check here, but we see that Katsu does not have the Dishonor. So the question is whether we want to let this Bonds draw off Mask of Momentum, and here I am committing all of my equipment, in fact, to blocking it. We play around Breaking Scales and Ancestral Empowerment by blocking for 6. I believe this is the correct line, and someone could certainly disagree with me here, say, you know what, we're at 21, maybe this Bonds of Ancestry hits, takes us to 17, we know that the Fluster Fist in Banish takes us to 13, Breeze Rider Boots is on the table, so the Fluster Fist could have go again. There is a chance that we take a lot of damage from this turn. Katsu draws into a Salt Wound. Katsu has another Fluster Fist in hand, and that's just a lot of damage. So I appreciate the thought of blocking this Bonds, making sure that we do not get hit by Ancestral Empowerment. But maybe it is too much. Katsu has no blocking armor aside from Mask. We are going to be able to present a pretty good turn to trigger our Mask of Momentum and draw a card. I think either way has an argument for it, but I do like and agree with blocking with all of the armor here. And we see that Katsu does have the Ancestral Empowerment, so it is a good thing that we overblocked. Playing it out just to try to fix the hand, and finishing with Fluster Fist, as well as Breaking Scales, is just interesting, trying to push a little damage here. This hand will play out exactly the way that I had said it would. We are pushing quite a bit of damage, and while the life totals are much closer than they were previously, we are still looking pretty good in this spot. The one downside about this hand is that we no longer have our Shuko, so Lava Burst is only going to be coming in for 5 rather than 6. 6 here would be very relevant because we are going to get hit with another Wax On. I am told, they swear to me, that Wax On is a bad card and will not see play in a ninja meta, but I have to say this Katsu is making it look okay. We are going to take the damage from this Surging Strike. We are not prepared to block it and whatever comes next. While we do have Katsu in Kadachi Lock, he still does have Mask of Momentum on the table, so we would like to be able to present 5 attacks on our next turn. With a red and blue brand in hand, this is doable as long as we keep our Soul Bead Strike. This is a turn where I just forget that Katsu has Mask of Momentum on the table. I believe the correct line here is to block this Descendant Gustwave with 2 3-blocks. So we throw Soul Bead Strike and Warmonger's Diplomacy in front of this Gustwave. We play around a potential Ancestral Empowerment in Katsu's arsenal, and while we don't get to strip Katsu's hand entirely, we do get 3 cards and the Mask of Momentum. We stay at 11 life, so Katsu only has his arsenal and 1 card in hand to play with. At most, that's what, 6 damage? If the card in Arsenal is a Fluster Fist and the card in hand is a blue, we go down to 5, keep a 4-card hand with our Flamescale Furnace to kill Katsu. If I was doing this now, I believe 100% that the correct play is to block this Descendant Gustwave, but like I said, In the moment, I just forget that Mask of Momentum is on the table. So that is 100% poor play by me. We get punished by Katsu drawing a card, plays the Bonds of Ancestry from Arsenal, and finds a red Whelming Gustwave. We can block this Bonds, stay at 6. We can take the damage from this Be Like Water and go down to 3. Then we can throw our Flamescale Furnace in front of the Whelming Gustwave. We go down to 1, which puts us in Kodachi lock, but we still have our 5 chain links to strip Katsu's hand and get the Mask of Momentum. So we start with Brand with Cinderclaw, which gets a defense reaction. We do see another Wax On. This is the third one, so Katsu is out, looking like we are still going to get Mask of Momentum and 2 cards, but we see a defense reaction to play Wax Off. FaB Discord swears to me, the best FaB players I know swear that this is a meme, that this doesn't happen. It is incredibly unlikely that this whole thing plays out, but as it is, we get hit with a Zen State, which completely negates our Kodachis and our Phoenix Flame, and we find ourselves in Kodachi lock. We are just going to block with the Double Strike, which is also negated by Zen State, and we lose to the Razor Reflex. So, to Mad Dog, do not let your memes be dreams. Make your memes come true. I think overall I played this game very well. This is a rare example of a player navigating a game as well as they could and still losing, because that does happen. And especially when we are made to go first, we are unfavored against Katsu. The previous turn and the Mask of Momentum trigger is potentially how we lost this game. If we had blocked the Descendant Gustwave, we stay at 11 life. Katsu can follow that up with Bonds of Ancestry and Whelming Gustwave. We don't block either of those attacks, so we do go down to 5. Our turn plays out the exact same way. Brand with Cinderclaw, Kodachi, Phoenix Flame. We get to present 1 less attack on that combat chain, so it's possible that Katsu gets to keep a card, but depending on what that card is, Katsu still can't win. A 0 for 4 takes us down to 1, and we can crack back with a 4-card hand. A blue pitching for Kodachi takes us to 3, and we can crack back with a 4-card hand. The real reason that we might have lost due to that Mask of Momentum trigger is we know the card Katsu drew is a Be Like Water. If Katsu had drawn that Be Like Water at the end of his turn and 3 more cards, maybe Wax On or Wax Off isn't among those 3. Maybe Wax On or Wax Off is now stuck on the top of Katsu's deck, so he has to play out the game as though we were just stripping the hand. It's also entirely possible that that doesn't happen. We're at 5 life. We still get hit by the Wax On, Wax Off combo, and as you can see from our hand here, with Rising Resentment, Blue Lava Vein, Blue Soulbeat Strike, and Double Strike, we still don't have a way to kill Katsu through the Zen State token. The only attacks here that hit are Rising Resentment and Soulbeat Strike, which get 2 cards from Katsu's hand. Katsu still has a Razor Reflex, which, if we're at 5 life, we let the first Kodachi go through. The second Kodachi gets hit with a Razor Reflex, we lose the game. So it's impossible to know whether the Mask of Momentum really lost us the game, but it was 100% a mistake to let it trigger, and that's something we need to fix going into our next events. Because even if we don't get hit by the Wax On, Wax Off meme dream, that still just loses games. But they swear to me this is a one-time thing, that we are not going to see wax on, wax off in the future. I hope you enjoyed this game. I hope you learned something. I am happy to be able to put a Katsu game up on my channel finally. After 60-some games, we have finally been able to find a Katsu game worth posting. We're still missing Arachne, and I think we're missing some other hero. But we finally have a Katsu one for the history books. If you have any questions or feedback for me, my comment sections are always open. I really enjoy hearing from all of you and interacting with the community we're building here. If you liked this video, if you found it helpful, or if you just think that it is great that I now have a real microphone and you can hear how excellent my voice sounds in real life, hit that like button for me. I will be back tomorrow with more daily FaB gameplay, and until then, have a great day. Take care.